Shalom Aleichem, everybody. There is a war going on. There's an intense war happening right now. It is greater than any war that has ever taken place. It is the war of all wars. And this is the war that is going on within ourselves, within our own minds and hearts. A war between us, our godly soul and our animal soul, our Yetzer Tov and our Yetzer Hara. And we have to make sure that the good side wins. How do we do this? By doing good deeds and by staying away from sins. That we are literally fighting the war of God. And the world at large is affected by our performance. That when we choose good over evil, we literally affect this world. And this is a greater war than any war. Even you imagine war between the greatest empires, intense, long, brutal wars. That is nothing compared to one Jewish person fighting a war against his evil inclination, because that is the strongest. We fight for the sake of the Almighty. And we have to realize that the war itself, the world itself is going through a war of ideology, a war of ideas, a war of information. That right now, awareness of God is fighting into the mix. Now with technology, there's ability to spread the existence of the Almighty to the world and to the nations, Jew and non-Jew alike. That we have to publicize the existence of God to the world. It's a war. Every person you meet, you have to make sure you leave that, you try your best, according to your means, according to your abilities, according to the situation. You have to try your best to make sure that person leaves with a greater awareness of the Almighty. And you do this also through good deeds, through presenting yourself in a holy way, especially when you're an Orthodox Jew. The second people look at you, they see a person who's God-fearing, and it affects them. And so too the way you act, the way you speak. When we present ourselves with a way where we represent the Almighty, we leave the person, the next person, with an impression, with an appreciation for the existence of God. And we should note that this will be marked by the coming of Mashiach. That our actions are not in vain. Not only do they bring the Mashiach into this world, but they're God's greatest pleasure. And when we pass away, when Mashiach comes, before we pass away, we will experience this greatness. And when Mashiach comes, there won't be any more death. We have to note that according to our logic, we can't rely on our own logic. Our own logic will say, oh, you're just doing an action, you're doing a good deed, you're giving to charity, what's the greatness of it? But you should note that it's not so. It's not so. You're connecting to the Almighty, you're serving the Almighty's purpose. It is infinite. The fact that Hashem is beyond infinite, He has everything. And yet He desires you, He desires your service, He desires your good deeds, your effort, means that this is an infinite purpose. The Almighty desires you. You are literally carrying out God's desire and plan into this world. It is something that is mind-boggling. When you think about it, that you're learning Torah right now, you're learning the wisdom of God.